If you didn't understand before, I hope you understand now. Because you're now listening to the We Talking podcast brought to you by Island Girl Team. This podcast, we are literally talking about every and anything with your girl, Kamilah Gums. So subscribe from wherever you get your podcast and get ready to talk. Welcome to episode 9 of the We Talking podcast. And for today's episode, we have special guests MP Ludmila Duncan and MP Angelique Romou of the National Alliance faction in the St. Martin Parliament. Once again, it's myself, Kamilah Gums, and my good friend, Nian Fleming. And we're going to be talking about education and Parliament and the things they want to achieve for the next 3 years. So before we get started, let me introduce our guest today. So first off, we're going to start off with MP Ludmila Duncan. So MP Solange Ludmila Duncan is a vision for St. Martin, is a country where our people are empowered, happy, and self-sustaining. As a mother, former civil servant, community activist, and mentor, she first ran on the 2018 election before being elected to Parliament in 2020. She brings an in-depth knowledge of policymaking, a love for innovation, and integrity to Parliament. MP Duncan is an alumni of MAC and the St. Martin Academy and has studied in the United States and the Netherlands. She holds a master's degree in development management from the University of Birmingham and will be focusing on issues such as small business development, education, culture, civic participation, and environmental protection. She is currently the chair of the Petitions, District Councils, and Constitutional Affairs and Decolonization Committee in Parliament. Next, we have MP Angelique Romou. MP Angelique Romou is a St. Martiner with a big love and heart for St. Martin. It is because of this love for country, people, and passion which flows deep within her veins. She has dedicated over 19 years of community service and would like to see the social fabric restored in St. Martin. Our youth excel and succeed in our country, St. Martin. To see equal employment opportunities for all, to see proper healthcare services, and to see our dearly beloved seniors age gracefully. It is her intention as a parliamentarian to see her initiatives amend legislations, laws, and improve the quality of life for all residents. So thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So we're gonna join straight
Thank
into
you for having us.
Yes. So we're gonna jump straight into the conversation today. And so the first question is basically, I guess what has taken over the media cycles in regards of Parliament and just conversations within country St. Martin over the last 2 weeks. So I know that MP Duncan, you are the chairperson of the committee in regards of decolonization. And then, of course, as a member of Parliament, MP Romou, you are in those discussions. So I would like for you guys, if it's possible for you to explain the true purpose of the committee. And then, of course, at the end, maybe give some insight about the roundtable discussions that you guys are going to initiate.
Thank you. So, 2020 was an extremely difficult year for everyone. The COVID-19 pandemic really put our country, our island, our people in such a vulnerable state. We were already in a vulnerable state following Hurricane Irma. And so once the need for liquidity support came up, and there were the conditions that came with that liquidity support, we started to talk about the democratic deficits that exist in the kingdom. We're citizens in a kingdom and we expect to be treated a certain way. So once that came about, I made a joint proposal with Member of Parliament Grisha Heiliger Martin of the United People's Party to create a committee for decolonization. Now, the purpose of any committee is to be a platform for discussions to take place. At this current moment, and before the committee was established, Kingdom Relations in itself had a committee, or it has a committee, but that committee is only comprised of faction leaders. So for us, like MP Romou and myself, who are just MPs, who are not faction leaders, being involved in those committee discussions wouldn't be possible. And so I believe that we needed a special platform for this issue because it has never really been dissected before. And that was why the committee was established, to have a platform to invite guest speakers about the topics, for each and every member of parliament to have an opportunity to research, to discuss, to debate, and offer solutions to the issues that we have around that topic. And that was why the committee was established.
Awesome. So of course, with the workings of the committee, I know I'm not sure if the petition is like one of the first things that came up from the committee, but then what is also the other plans and the goals, like the discussions you guys are planning to have within Parliament, and then of course expand that into the public?
So the first initiative is to host a roundtable discussion of local experts. As you saw with the advice from the Council of State in the Netherlands on the so-called COHO, there are some issues that we have with the charter, and this needs to be discussed. But we have never had our local experts, so lawyers, academic experts, come together and dissect the Kingdom Charter and propose solutions. And so that is one of the first initiatives that we are currently working on in the committee, to host this roundtable, to have our experts come in and really debate the Kingdom Charter and how we can hopefully solve the democratic deficits that exist in it.
And I was also from that. So I actually love the idea of the roundtable discussion and everything that is in regards of that as well. From the results of that, is there like, I guess you'd be presented working on more type of legislation or figuring out ways to have these discussions about the Kingdom Charter with other Kingdom partners? Like what do you foresee that the end goal might be from these conversations?
So definitely, again, besides this discussing and debating the issues, because we all have different perspectives, right? And ideas about what might be fair or what is positive discrimination and what is acceptable. So having this discussion will bring all of these ideas to the forefront, possible solutions if we can agree on what the problems are. And then with those solutions, as a country, we can go to the kingdom and meet with our kingdom partners. Hey, Aruba, what are your issues with the Kingdom Charter? Have a discussion with everyone in the kingdom. And at the end of the day, go to the Kingdom Council of Ministers and propose possible solutions. We have been waiting on a dispute regulation for many years. There is a draft now, but this is something that also has to happen, but it can still be debated. So I'm hoping that this is the beginning of a trajectory that in the end gives each and every country solutions that they can be happy about.
Okay.
One of the questions that I wanted to ask as well is that you mentioned having collaborating with our other partners in the kingdom, and I wanted to know if these type of discussions are taking place in IPCO, for instance. Isn't the role of this conversation, in particular constitutional affairs, supposed to happen in IPCO, or was there a major necessity, for instance, to have a separate committee for it?
So that is one of the arguments, right? That there is a Kingdom Relations Committee headed by the faction leaders, and they speak for every faction, right, in IPCO, for instance, which is fine. But me as an individual MP with my ideas and my thoughts, again, I believe that a separate committee brings a lot of focus and attention to matters that we haven't discussed that might not come up at IPCO. Okay. It's a new idea. There are arguments for and against, but I believe we're living in a very interesting time, a very historical time. The election of MP Urine Huerta, for instance, she has said that she wants to be a Caribbean voice in the Dutch Parliament. What does that even mean?
Right.
So all of these are like new ideas and new things that are happening that will that we don't know how it's going to go, but I believe it's exciting that we see what can come out of these new happenings.
And what are your thoughts, MP Romou, on this committee, or what do you think that you can bring to this committee?
Okay, well, I think I'm also a member of the committee, and I think the establishment was well needed. The idea that we are in a kingdom and we are supposed to be heard, but we are in what they consider a democratic deficit is something that I believe we have to try to change. It can't change if you really look at the makeup of the kingdom and how many representatives we have at the table. Okay. Nevertheless, our constitution as it is right now still has a lot to be fixed. And as MP Duncan said, by establishing this committee, it's a step moving forward. Okay. You will then dissect a lot of things that have never even been thought of, have been thought of. So the committee on its whole, it's new. We haven't really had a meeting yet to say, well, these are the things we're going to discuss. We know the intention of the committee. We know the way forward, but I think it's just it's a baby, and a baby has to grow.
Yeah.
So I believe that I believe every parliamentarian is on the committee. Am I correct, MP Duncan? Do we have 14 parliamentarians, or is it 15? You're not sure.
I think almost
everyone joined the committee because they see the importance of having it. It's politics, so now with what has been going on, you're going to hear a lot of different stories. But my take is this: if it's not something that you're for, or if it's not something that you see that there will be a need for in the future, then why be a part of it? You understand? I think if you're a part of the committee, is because you do see a need for it, and you see where it can benefit the people of St. Martin in the long run. And that's my take on the establishment of the decolonization committee.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. And just like my last question, I'm not like 100% sure, but these committees will also be like working committees. So like everyone will come down and have like documents and just be going through XYZ. Am I correct?
That's how it should be, yes. So the idea is definitely that it's a real working committee. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. That's great. And I know you mentioned earlier in your answer about the advice that came from the Raad van State earlier last week. I don't know, time has been very confusing for me lately, but I know it came out, last month. And I just want to know, like, a lot of the reactions from the advice was like, yes, we knew that it wasn't good, it wasn't bad. But what does you as a parliamentarian, as we wait from what the kingdom government has to say, how to present it, what is your initial reaction to it? But also what steps are you going to be taking, like as a member of parliament, in regards to this coho law?
This is one of the issues that we have currently, and this is the real fight. The government of St. Martin and the government of the Netherlands is in agreement about liquidity support.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Parliament is here, and Parliament has a stance. And the government has agreed, but then State Secretary Knops wants the Parliament to also fully agree. And Parliament is saying, but we cannot agree to a law that we haven't seen. And in our initial analysis of it, it's completely far-reaching, and that is why we have issue with it. So it's a back and forth, a battle between government and Parliament. And so for me, of course, I knew that the advice, because even before it arrived at the Council of State, legal experts throughout the region talked about the issues that they saw in it. And so for me, I would want, and I have been making a proposal to the government, I want renegotiation on agreements moving forward. because indeed it is an advice. So I think State Secretary Knopf said, well, I don't have to listen to the
Right,
advice.
it's not binding.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And that for me proves that there is a lack of understanding. And I believe in participation and an equal voice.
Mhm.
So I believe that there needs to be a renegotiation, and I'm hoping that things can improve, especially now that there is also sort of a little political crisis in the Netherlands. So there's crisis everywhere right now.
Right.
And I think we need to all step back and look at everything again.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so my take on it is that indeed the advice was given primarily to the advice coming out. Our prime minister also stated basically the same things that came out in the advice. So people seem to be a bit confused because of they are not seeing that the country packages to which Parliament agreed upon is not it is not the cohort law. So I believe that that's where the misunderstanding is coming, because a lot of the workings in the packages are what are already in the governing accord as well for the government. So people are seeing it as this is the cohort law and you guys agree to the cohort law, and now look, no, the law has not yet come out. So we haven't agreed to a law. We have agreed to country packages, which will benefit St. Martin. It somewhat can tie into the law. However, if the law is not in standings with what the Parliament can agree with, then it's not something that Parliament will agree with. You understand? If it's trampling on the rights of the people of St. Martin, then it's not something that Parliament would agree with, because then we are here to represent the people. And I believe that's where the confusion is coming in society and in the community, because the community is not understanding the two. So the advice that came out is in our benefit, but as is being stated, and it is so, it is an advice. So an advice is something that you can take or you may not take. I just feel that that the Netherlands is playing a bit of a hard ball here, because here you have various entities saying that the advice cannot work the way it has been presented, and yet you are saying if Parliament does not come out and fully support this, then we will stop liquidity support. I mean, it's not about Parliament, it's about the people of St. Martin, and government and Parliament are two separate entities. Whether we support the government or not, Parliament cannot be seen as government. And if government has already given their support, then they have given their support to what you're asking them for. So you cannot hold government accountable for Parliament. And I believe that that is what's going on right now. And hopefully we can see a turn for the best, especially seeing that the Netherlands just had elections. You know, it's kind of a shift in the ruling powers. So let's see. Right now it's about wait, like MP Duncan said, let's sit back and wait and see what's going to be the outcome.
But I think that's a really good point. But what maybe what's something to maybe you can expound on, both of you, or elaborate on, is that the confusion between the two. So for instance, the coho and the country packages, that being that the country packages is a trajectory to the law. I think some even think that. So for instance, that we think that, okay, we have agreed mutually about these country packages, but this country package is on the way to the law. Is that a good interpretation of that, to say that? So the reforms that this entity is supposed to do is, I wouldn't even know to explain it properly, but the reforms that have been put on the table that St. Martin is having a implementation agenda on, that is going to be a part of what the coho will be overseeing at one point. Maybe is that a good way to put it? Or that's maybe the reason why people are confusing the two, or thinking that you guys have agreed to the two, or something like that, maybe?
Yes, I believe that is why, because indeed it is like, and as was previously explained, it is a trajectory. Right. Nevertheless, it all comes to fruition when the law has been established, and then it comes back to Parliament. So without that, we still cannot move forward, so to speak. The law has to be in place, and so far it has not been presented to us. But what we have seen previously is indications as to what it would look like. And basically the initial documentation that came out basically said that it's almost like saying your parliament and your government has no say. And that is really impossible because the people of St. Martin has elected parliament. The people of St. Martin didn't elect anyone from the Netherlands, so to speak. So it's trampling on our rights and our democracy to say that you're going to have people who haven't been elected, that are not even known in the society, in the community of St. Martin, run St. Martin, because that's basically how it initially came about. And of course, those things have to be revisited because as it is, I know that it's not something that we can accept as is.
Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I wanted to bring a very practical example to the table. Before 2020, every meeting had to be in person, right? All of a sudden now we realize, no, we can actually host virtual meetings and accomplish the same goals that we set out for ourselves. And this is exactly how I see the cohort. We have agreed, my apologies, I have dogs, sorry.
No problem.
Sorry. So we agreed that these reforms, these policy reforms have to take place. There are virtual meetings happening across the kingdom every day about the same reforms. Why does an entity, a separate entity with Dutch bureaucrats stationed on St. Martin have to oversee the reforms when we have secretary generals and ministers already in position to oversee and to hold the departments accountable? And that is how I look at it. Something that is very impractical. And MP Romou mentioned the fact that politically you're asking or you're giving power to persons who are actually not accountable to the people of St. Martin in terms of overseeing those reforms. So that was an example I wanted to use.
That was a great example.
It is. And I know you guys mentioned that of course, when it comes to these certain things, it's usually the government that's doing all the negotiation. But as members of the coalition and having these conversations, I guess through coalition meetings with the government and parliamentarians, is there I guess, I don't know, advice or plans or things from the parliament side telling the government hey, maybe you should try to negotiate for XYZ just because you believe this has a better benefit than probably the path they're going on at this time?
At all times, there are coalition meetings, and at all times, everyone, has the opportunity to voice their opinion and to give certain scenarios that we think will be beneficial for the people. But at the end of the day, it's like the advice. They're going to come together and they're going to decide which way they think would be best to go. But indeed, we do come together, we do have our meetings, and everyone's ideas, opinions are taken into consideration.
And I don't know, MP Duncan, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, no, it's just like MP Romou said, you have, how much of us actually, is it 15? But there's a number, so there's a number of different persons in this group together. And indeed, half of us are in an executive position and half of us are in a sort of overseeing legislative position. And so it is open, so we can always give policy proposals, but at the end, indeed, the ministers are responsible and have the decision making for those daily activities and those daily decisions. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. As we, I guess, shift the conversation a little bit, I guess focus a little bit more strongly on a little bit more local matter. So there's been issues highlighted about the issue with the casino being next to Sandaya School. So I just want to know, as ministers and people who's been into policy and education and everything along those lines, as parliamentarians, what steps to have these conversations with the various ministries of TIAT and education, culture, youth, and sports, just to figure out how to deal with that situation in the casino, especially the call from major of the public to actually move the casino from in front of Sundial School.
Okay, but you know what? It's very ironic how that happened, because the day previous to that picture being put on Facebook, and then that started an entire discussion. We had a meeting of the Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport Committee, and those two, well, not two. It's basically the same topic, but in two different areas of it was discussed. So we had already, in the committee discussed that we were going to call in the ministers, both ministers actually, of TEAT and of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sports, because it tie in to have a discussion on this issue. And then lo and behold, the following day, this came out. So it's almost like, hey, we are ahead of the game in terms of, addressing the problem. Besides that, I also posed quite a number of questions to the Minister of TEAT, asking for clarity as far as it pertained to, what are the rules? What is the law state when it comes to the proximity of having a casino next to a sensitive institution like the library and the school? And I posed quite a number of questions along those lines to get the correct information, because a lot of times we don't have the correct information, or what is being said outside is not the correct information. And I believe as members of parliament, it is our duty to bring forth the correct information to the public. So I'm awaiting those answers. I haven't received them as yet. Nevertheless, I have also requested in the meantime a meeting of Parliament of the Committee of Education, Culture, Youth, and Sport to discuss this in a public forum as well. I believe from in the brief discussion I had with the Minister of TEAT, it was indicated that, it's indeed not the ideal place to have the casino. Nevertheless, it's a bit difficult now because, again, it's not the sitting government who agreed to have that casino there. And already agreements were made and contracts were signed. You have so many people working there, because we had an in-depth discussion about it. And something that the minister made mention of is she said, we can't just close the casino, because then you have hundreds of people who will then be unemployed. So then you have another issue on your hand. So you see, it's something that ties in. So it has so many different facets. And we definitely have to have the discussion and see how this can be remedied. But it's definitely not going to happen overnight, because it's something that was created by others than ourselves. We came and we met it. And it is our duty, though, to see how we can rectify it that will then benefit all, so nobody has to lose jobs. But then what kind of message do we want to send to our youngsters, having such an entity close by? Because I don't know if you saw the picture that was on Facebook.
Yeah.
But, it's like a hangout place, even though it was said, oh, but that entrance is not being used. They don't have a permit to use that entrance that is facing the school and the library. Everything about it is attractive for young people, because you have the lights that are flickering. You have it's something that young people want to be a part of, and it's still not a good image. So it is a discussion that we're definitely going to have, hopefully sooner than later. As I mentioned, my request already went in, and hopefully this meeting can happen and we can have an open debate about the situation.
I just have a question. If there is any plans for any legislation or policy, for instance, of placement of schools or placement of businesses in regards to sensitive institutions, like you mentioned, is there any collaboration to do that to prevent things like happening again?
You're thinking along the lines of with all of those questions I posed as well. I asked questions like, are there policies already in place that determine what should be the proximity between a sensitive institution and a casino or a brothel, or places that it's not something that you want your young people to engage in, because it doesn't send the correct message. And if there's not a policy, are there plans to create such a policy? What does the law say on this? So all of these questions have been posed to get, like I said again, the facts. And once the facts are, there, then we can share this with the public, because it's not something that it's public knowledge, because I don't know. I mean, I would be lying to say that, yes, this law is in place, etc. And that's all of those questions were sent to the minister. And then, as soon as we get the answers, hopefully it comes before the public meeting. But, it will still be a debate to see how it can be rectified.
Yeah,
for sure. MP Duncan?
Yes. So there is a draft zoning law, but I haven't seen it. It hasn't arrived to Parliament as yet. But the Minister of Romou has been working on it. The issue that I have seen in government is that each ministry operates as a silo, when almost every issue overlaps. So it is impossible to make a decision on a building without checking in with the other ministers, because again, it has an impact. And this is something that I have told the government, and they have said, at least a few ministers have said, yes, they are going to be working together for once to collaborate on decision making. Because oftentimes, let's say now, major hotels, investor comes and they see a prime piece of property and they want to invest in it. However, each process is separate. The process for a business license is separate from the process for an environmental hindrance permit, and the labor process is separate. And I've told them that we cannot continue to operate in this manner. There is supposed to be interministerial workings on every major policy issue. And I believe once we see this, then we will see better decisions being made moving forward as it concerns zoning, as it concerns businesses popping up in different areas, and the effect that business will have on the environment and the people. That is why we've had so many issues in the past, but I hope and I believe that this government will try to change the way in which decision making is done holistically.
Yeah.
I actually agree a lot with that. I believe, collaboration and everything in between needs to be worked in order for certain policies to be properly be enacted in public as well. And then, talking about policies and work as well, we always have discussions about our education system and St. Martin, and how does it have effect on us when it comes to our knowledge of not just only local stuff, but I guess diversifying the knowledge that people are able to get. So how do you think St. Martin can improve the education and even overall youth development? And what do you think, what kind of policies or collaborative efforts do you think that need to be placed that, the younger generations can have some success after leaving for college, etc.?
Can you be more specific with your question, because it seems to have it's like multifaceted, your question. What exactly what exactly do you want to know? Because are you asking if we think that our educational system needs to be improved, in which way it can be improved? Where exactly do you want to go with your question?
Just basically thinking about like personally, I believe that the education system needs to be improved. Like, improvement is needed. So like, how do you guys think that, like, how you guys even think we can improve the system? And like, if you think the system needs to improve, what steps do we have to go through to improve our education system?
Okay, I'm going to start on this. Well, as far as the education system is concerned, you have to remember that we have a multifaceted educational system. We have public, we have semi-private, we have private, and in all of those institutions, you have different types of educational systems as well. Mm-hmm. You have the Dutch system, where the youngsters can go to primary school. Their supposedly official language is supposed to be Dutch. Then they can go on to MAVO, HAVO, VWO. Then you have the English system where they can go to St. Martin Academy that does CXC. And of course, then you have some of the private institutions that cater to the American-based learning and then Canadian-based learning. So to say that our educational system needs to be improved, that's why I said, where exactly are you going? Because it's vast, it's huge. And I don't know if I would want to say the educational system needs to be improved. I just think the manner in which things are done needs to be improved. We have a great system, but we cannot continue to use methods that are outdated and in some. Let's use for example foundation-based education, a very, very, very good system. But is it being utilized and is it being put into practice the way it's supposed to be put into practice? I don't think so. So then what you hear people saying is that it's not a good system. It's not that it's not a good system. They are not implementing it the way it's supposed to be implemented in order for you to see it work and benefit our youth.
How exactly?
So these are things that.
Sorry to disturb you in the middle of it, but how exactly? Can you give an example of how is it supposed to work?
First of all, foundation-based education had to be evaluated, I believe, since 2014 or 2015, and that has not happened as far as I know. Maybe MP Duncan can chime in from when she was in the education department if she can remember, because it's something that I can remember when I started back in the ministry. It was told to me that the division of innovations were busy trying to set up a program where they could evaluate it, and that's since 2014. So that's 7 years ago. And up to date, I don't think that has taken place. So those are the things that are lacking that needs to be improved. If a system has been ongoing for 10 years, and in the 10th year you say, okay, we're going to evaluate it, and it has to be evaluated. If it's evaluated, you're going to send people in to see, hey, are the teachers really utilizing these steps that foundation-based requires? And if not, why not? And if it's not working for the greater part because the teachers are not doing what they're supposed to do, let's just say, then it has to be revisited. So that's why I'm saying that it's not that the educational system is bad. It's the implementation of the processes that needs checks and balances. And somebody has to be held accountable for what is not taking place. Because if you ask me, I think we have great systems in St. Martin, and the fact that parents can choose is awesome, because it's not like it's CXC and that's it. No, you have a choice. You can choose to send your child to a Dutch school where they're getting a Dutch education, or you can choose to send them to an English school. You can choose to send them to a private school. We have choices, which I think is great for a parent. But then it's when you make your choice, what happens then? And I believe these are the things that we need to look at in our educational system to make sure that we are doing the best for our youth coming up. But I wouldn't say that our educational system is bad. I just think we need to have the proper evaluations in place, and we have to hold the persons who are executing accountable to do what they're supposed to do. Then I think everybody will benefit. So that's my take on that part.
I just have this is a general type question that about specifically in our education system. A call from parents is, and you see it on the floor of Parliament as well, special education. That this is an area that I think, in my opinion, has been a hot topic, but we never really have seen anything else but a discussion on special education, like throughout, not just now, just over time, we've seen a conversation about special education, but not us really doing something about special education. And I think that what my question to you guys is, from that meeting that you had, I think probably a month ago or two, what do you think the steps are from that meeting? We see that we have these different institutions on St. Martin that are offering special education care. We have one that is government owned, some that are not, and they are facing challenges. How are we able to, what is the next step to be able to actually get something done or to, solve some of these challenges?
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's also one of the topics that was discussed in the education committee. initially, the meeting was requested by another member of parliament. And I felt that it was necessary to include all of the stakeholders in this meeting, because I believe first it was just two. And then I said, listen, we're going to have a discussion on this, and we want to really get to the bottom of as to what is the problems that all of these entities are facing, because we want a solution. Then let's invite all of them to the table. So basically, we had like 5 or 6 different organizations that cater towards the needs of special needs children come in. It was a great discussion. In the follow-up meeting, it was really our hope that, for me, and I said it would be the biggest entity because it's government, for the government schools to come back and give their answers. Because one of the things that we asked was, is there a policy? If there's a policy, why is it not being worked on? If there's not a policy, what is taking it so long? And one of the things that was said to us is that a policy started, and then heard that, yeah, but there is a policy. So there was so many conflicting answers. That's why it would have been awesome if the schools that from government that are offering special needs came back to answer those questions. So some of the things that I believe when it comes to special education, because we were also told that there's no law. We did some research and we were told there's no law. So we were like, this is myself now. I said, well, we need to develop a special education law in which, amongst other things, we will seek to address and mandate the establishment of an official school for this. We have Prince William Alexander School,
right, correct,
which is a start, but I don't believe the majority of the teachers are special ed teachers, and I think that's where we need to start. We need to start recognizing that this is an issue that we have, and a regular teacher cannot teach a child that has special needs. I mean, it's a study that I have friends who studied special ed, and I know it's not a 1, 2, 3 thing. It's a specialization. You need a special love in your heart as well. Patience. I mean, it's a lot of different things you need to deal with children that have special needs. And then also they can only help a certain amount of children. So which is also an indication that one school is not sufficient. So that's where this young lady that is doing it on her own came in and started her school. I think one of the things that I had asked her that I feel that was an issue why she wasn't really getting support. And then she said in the end that, yeah, we have teachers who are indeed now doing follow-up courses in order to teach children with special needs, because it's important. If I feel that if you're going to be in the business of special ed, you have to be qualified. You know, you can have a love for it, yes, but you have to be qualified, because how do you determine exactly what this child has? Special needs is broad. You know, you have autism, you have, dyslexia, you have so many different things that if you're not educated in the field of special ed, how are you going to teach a child? How are you going to know where to meet them with their special needs? Because every special need child is different, So I think it's great that the school was established, but I believe to get it on the level where it's supposed to be, including our own public school, the teachers need to be qualified in order to deal with special needs. And then coming back to education, then we have, where do they go after? And that's why my fight came about, because I taught at the St. Martin Vocational Training School.
That's what was my next question, because I have a friend or friends that, have went to, vocational and, ended up having special needs issues or challenges. And, those challenges were not seen earlier and they were just placed there, and I was wondering, is the vocational school a place for special needs? Is that what the intention was at the school? Because I assume that it was not. And is it like, when we're having these conversations about special needs, is it that we need to establish something new or to think about a new way of what's after the primary school level? Because I think oftentimes that you see that after they may have attended a private institution or our public school, that they get placed in vocational, and what happens then?
Well, as far as the
say something, MP.
Sorry.
No, I saw MP is on mute, but did you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to jump in, and I want to answer this and also the previous question. So I am actively working on the current legislation, which is the basic education law, but also the compulsory law. I'm actively looking at it, and I will be proposing amendments to it for special needs. I have a niece that has special needs, so it is close to my heart, and I have been trying to dissect over the last year what improvements can be made. We cannot change everything at once, but what will be the beginning of it? My personal opinion, first and foremost, is to expand Prince William Alexander and what they can offer. So if my niece finishes at 12, she should be able to continue sort of like an American middle school type of education there without going to vocational school if she is not yet ready. So that is a sort of mission that I am on, but in fact, the research and the meetings held have helped. I am busy with the research because something definitely needs to be done, but what and how, that is what is in development right now. But special needs is close to me because, of course, again, I have personal experience with it. I just wanted to say this about the previous question in particular. When I look at the education system, I feel that we need to be outcome focused. So even if we stay as diverse as we are, which I actually do like, what are the outcomes that we want? So it doesn't matter if a child or a student graduates from St. Dominic or they graduate from LU. How can we look at them and how should we see them? They should be, in my opinion, creative. They should be able to speak at least 2 languages. They should be critical thinkers. And so I believe that if, especially government as the body responsible, if we can ensure that our outcomes are met, then we will see improvements in our students. I also believe in flexibility, and this is something that I'm not really hearing anything about, but that I will be asking government about. I remember going through high school and wishing that I had some sort of home ec class, or even if I was able to do an electrical technical class, that would have done us so good. Like right now, you guys are in college, and you're like, my mother didn't teach me. My mother might have taught me how to cook, but what would a working class have done for me? So we need to offer flexibility out to our students. You should be able to take courses at different high schools. Why? Because it makes you a more rounded a person better able to survive and thrive in this world. That is what I want to see from our education system.
But that's why I said that that is what foundation. No, but that's what is supposed to happen in the first 2 years of foundation-based education. Foundation-based education doesn't stop at 6th grade. And that's why I said the evaluation of this should have taken place, because when you enter your first and second year, and it's funny because just last week we were having this discussion again, everybody is supposed to be on the same level, basically being given all of these different subjects that form part of foundation-based education, and then you choose. But the way it's being done is not the way it's supposed to be done. And that's what I'm saying, accountability and who's going to take responsibility for not making sure that what is there already happens. And I think that is our problem. It's always you hear ideas, you hear different things, but it's not like it's new. It's there already, but what are we doing with it? Are we holding the persons accountable who have to make sure that it's in place, who have to make sure that these things are being done? No. And I think that's a big problem we have across the board when it comes to government entities and entities on a whole. Accountability. Nobody's being accountable. And that's why we keep doing this. It's like you're going around in a circle. And I keep telling people, if you keep doing the same thing, you keep getting the same outcome. And that's not what we want. You want to see change. You want to see progress, and it's not that we don't have the tools and we don't have the manpower. We have it, but we're not utilizing our experts and our local experts to the best of their ability, I feel. And as we were talking about the special needs, like I was saying, and Ludmila talked about working on something for special ed, and it's the same here. I've had meetings with she was contracted to work on the higher education part, because I believe that is where the bottleneck is right now. When, like MP Duncan said, when the youngsters are finished with, let's say, Prince William Alexander, what happens then? The only school, and the school was intended initially to be a special needs high school, vocational school, that is.
Okay.
And it just ended up being all sorts of things, meaning
Right.
I taught there in one class, you would have boys who are extremely intelligent, but they have behavioral issues. So they were going to academy or they were going to MPC. And because of whatever happened to them, they were kicked out. And then the only school that they would be able to go to was vocational. But is vocational a school for them? No, because the school was meant for to be like a trade school, but initially also for youngsters who had learning disabilities. What has happened over the years is nothing. So what you keep seeing is like a cycle keep going, round and round, where children who have learning disabilities, children who have behavioral issues, all sorts of children are going to the vocational school. You have a melting pot of different levels. And then what happens? The school has not had an official status since its inception. So even if you go there and you're smart, or you have a learning disability, what happens to you when you're finished? Basically your diploma is not valued. And I think we're doing our children a disservice when we're sending them to a supposedly higher learning institution. It's supposed to be secondary, but the reality is the diploma is not worth anything, because where are you going to go with that? At least we know your CXC diploma is valued on a certain level. You have a diploma, your VWO, your MAVO, you take a L as it is now. But what is the vocational training school's diploma? Nothing. It doesn't say with this you have successfully completed CXC or CCLSC, the lower level. It doesn't say anything.
And I think a good transition into like my follow-up question is that some may argue that same point is like, what do you do with your certificate after you graduate from vocational? And often the rebuttal to that is go to NEPA. So I also wanted to step in and hear your both of your views on what is after high school, what is your views on what after high school, what education do you see for the population of St. Martin?
You want to start? Because when I started talking,
that's true.
MP Duncan is not getting a chance to let her start.
No, for me, honestly, at the end of high school, our students should be prepared to follow one of two trajectories, or in my opinion. So a local trajectory, which includes whether it is the University of St. Martin, or now that we have CAPE and IB, going to that level first. We do have NEPA, which is a vocational training school at an advanced level. Our students should be able to excel here on the island locally, but they should also as well have an accredited diploma in the case that they want to go abroad, whether that is in the region or whether that is in the Netherlands or the United States. So we have to, at the end of high school, no matter which high school that student goes to, equip them with whatever is, and not necessarily the minimum, but what will allow them to be successful in whichever path is available to go into. So indeed, if you finish at vocational and your option is NEPA, you should enter NEPA and be able to be successful there and go into the labor market. If you want to go to USM for 2 years and then go to UE in Trinidad, you should be able to do that successfully too. And so that is why, to me, again, the outcome is so important. And what we have been missing on St. Martin as well is accreditation. We do not have a so-called accreditation council institution that focuses on ensuring that our diplomas are accredited. And as soon as that is put in place, then we should see the trickle down into how schools operate with their education and so forth.
Yes. I don't know, when you say accredited, MP Duncan, are you talking strictly accredited in terms of tertiary education? Are you talking secondary? Because then based on what you're talking about, then I can also expound on what you said there.
So I mean to go towards tertiary education, yes.
Okay. Well,
so in matching, when you finish with a diploma from this school, can you go to the UK? Can you go to the United States? Can you go? Yeah, that's
okay. Well, I believe I think the only institution that would need that really and truly would be vocational training school, because all of the other institutions already have that built into the system where they are accredited. So that's why I asked if you meant, high school, if you were specifically talking about the University of St. Martin as far as accreditation is concerned, because all of the schools have the accreditation committees already assigned because they are schools with a status, unlike the St. Martin Vocational Training School that doesn't have a status. So it would be really only that school that would be needing such an accreditation. And as far as a vocational school is concerned, that's why I was saying that has my attention, because I don't believe we can go into another decade, another 2 years, another 3, 5 years with the school not having a status. And we're doing such a disservice to our youngsters. Because again, like I mentioned, you have three types of students going there. You have those who are intelligent, that just, needs behavioral counseling. You have those who have learning disabilities. And then you have those who are really geared towards vocation. So they want to do something with their hands. They want to cook. They want to do carpentry. They want to do plumbing. So I believe that school can no longer be the way it is. It's either they're going to set it up in have the 3 layers, where if you're a vocational student geared towards vocation, you go in that stream. If you're a special ed that you need help because you're dyslexic or whatever be the case, you go to that stream. And if it's a behavioral issue, then you go to that stream. But you cannot have it as it is. It cannot remain in the same format it is, because what that does also is that, I could tell you, it drives some of the teachers crazy, because you have so many different levels in a class. Something that really bothered me is that you have a lot of students that come from some of the other schools that may have learning disabilities, but because it wasn't detected, they reach to high school and they can't read. You have 14, 15-year-olds who cannot read. You cannot function in anything if you can't. You need reading for everything. It's basically impossible to be successful in whatever you're doing if you can't read. So these are the little fundamental issues that some of the students have, that I feel that we are doing a disservice to them because we're not tackling these issues. And it needs to be fixed. We are addressing it. Again, though, something that one of our colleagues always say is that we are going to propose the amendments to the laws, or we're going to bring forward laws. But when it gets to government has to execute, because it's not that we bring it forward and then it happens. That's not how it works. And something that I think has also been to our detriment in St. Martin is the constant change of governments. So what may be this government's priority may not be the incoming government's priority. And that is our biggest downfall in seeing things come to fruition. So when I hear people saying things like, oh, but Parliament has been in existence for 10 years and what have they done? Let me tell you, a lot have started, but how is it going to be completed if you have this, what has been happening in the past years, that governments don't last for more than a year or two, and then new people come in, then what? So those are the things that I think that these are the steps we need to take first in order to create a stability, and then we can start to see the change, the much needed change that we want to see.
Thank you so much, MP Romou. I think even for both of you, I think that was a question I really needed to ask both of you on your vision on education. Cam?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly on everything. And looking at time and trying to make sure that we have everything in set and you guys can go on with the rest of your day, we're actually gonna move on to our fun question. Disclaimer, our fun question usually has nothing to do with our discussion that we ever have to do. It's usually the randomest question we can possibly find. Just tend to end the podcast on a more lighter note, just, because topics can be serious, they can be heavy. So we just to end on a lighter note. And our fun question today is, what is your favorite dessert and why?
Go ahead, MP.
I actually have two favorite desserts, so I want to cheat a little bit. Coffee ice cream. I have always loved coffee ice cream. So even as a child, before I started drinking coffee, I love coffee ice cream. And I am a huge cheesecake fan. Like, I love cheesecake. And it can be plain, you can throw cherries on top of it. But I'm a cheesecake fanatic as well. So coffee ice cream and cheesecake.
Wow.
I agree. I do love cheesecake. Cheesecake
That was
is
unexpected. It just the two combinations wasn't expected. MP?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's I have a variety as well. It depends on what they have on the menu because they don't always have what you want. So I love Haagen-Dazs ice cream, and there's two that I really love. That is pralines and cream and salted caramel. Like anything that has caramel in it for me is just awesome. I also I love cheesecake too. As a matter of fact, just the other day I had cheesecake with salted caramel on the top. so I love that. And then also creme brulee. Creme brulee for me is just my favorite. So those three things. Creme brulee.
Creme brulee is the favorite.
You know what? I have to agree. I love anything caramel related. Like, I can literally just swim in a bowl of caramel. Like, I just really, really love anything caramel related. But with that, though, I want to thank both of you guys for joining us today. And good luck on everything that we have to do and continue the great work as parliamentarians. And with that, this is the end of episode 9 of the We Talking podcast. And this is also the season ending podcast. So we'll see you again for season 2. So thank you. Bye.